Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Back in 2016, I spotlighted the first superhero crossover between DC and Marvel. Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. But of course, being the first, there were more that came along. In fact, for a while, it was an annual event between the two companies. Earlier this year, I talked a little bit about the plans for a Justice League and Avengers crossover that didn't end up happening until the early 2000s, but the story here goes back a bit further than that. 4 years after Superman vs. the Amazing Spider-Man, then Marvel editor-in-chief Jim Shooter and then DC publisher Jeanette Kahn had lunch, with Kahn suggesting that they do more crossovers, gaining some more exposure for lesser selling but still popular titles, and splitting the profits 50-50. Wait a second, a lucrative idea where they both get money fairly instead of one side getting all the money and refusing to do something because they don't get all the money? What new spore of madness is this? Both sides would get editorial approval for the story, to ensure one half of the team-up didn't make the other half look bad. Contracts were written up, and everything was on its way. They decided Spidey and Superman would once again be the headliners for the first of these crossovers, with Marv Wolfman being on tap to be the guy to write it. Dr. Doom was decided to be the main villain, with a DC villain being more like a sidekick or henchman to him. It kinda makes sense if they were alternating that kind of thing, since in the first crossover, Dr. Octopus kinda played second fiddle to Lex Luthor. Unfortunately, in the middle of all this, Marv Wolfman's contract with Marvel expired, and he ended up getting snatched up by DC. Since Marvel was in charge of this first project, he was no longer on their staff and couldn't write it. So Jim Shooter himself had to take up the challenge, since he was the only Marvel writer at the time who had done both Spider-Man and Superman before. According to Shooter, it took DC 4 months to approve of the plot he submitted to them. And not because they were requesting changes, but just took that long before they finally answered with a, sure, go ahead. Which might also explain the occasional delays I talk about in DC books. Hey, are you going to approve that issue of All-Star Batman and Robin today? Ugh, no man, I'll do it tomorrow, okay? Promise. After some drama involving deadlines for delivering the book, it shipped on time and was indeed a huge success, bringing about annual crossovers including Batman vs. the Hulk, the X-Men meeting the new Teen Titans, fighting Dark Phoenix, and of all people, Darkseid, despite Darkseid not being a Titans villain. But then there was the Justice League and Avengers crossover where that all fell apart. For how that went down, check out my JLA/Avengers review. And to check out how the first of these annual crossovers did, let's dig into Superman and Spider-Man.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara. Is it all in that pretty little head of yours?
The cover, I don't know, there's something about it I don't like. Layout-wise, it's fine. Supes and Spidey coming in to confront Dr. Doom and Superman villain the Parasite, but while normally I like painted art styles, this one just feels rather mushy. Like it's very blurry and not as clean as I'd prefer. It's not a bad cover at all, but it's just not one I like all that much. Featuring the murderous menace of Dr. Doom and the Parasite, now beginning their triumphant world tour. We open with Spidey swinging towards some bank robbers in Manhattan, also revealing our title of the story. The Heroes and the Holocaust. Oh great, the real threat from Dr. Doom and the Parasite. They're Holocaust deniers. Suspended on a single slender strand of impossibly strong webbing, a bizarre figure arcs gracefully through the chill, damp air. Braun Strowman, what are you doing up there? He is, of course, the amazing Spider-Man, and for him, this night is destined to be a fateful one. Then again, any night where Spidey can just go home and watch Netflix without any of his loved ones being hurt is pretty eventful. Well, 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 what have we here? Bank robbers? At last! I hate to admit it, but I'm delighted to see somebody breaking the law. Man, I wish my uncle was here to see... Oh, right. Upon spotting him, the robbers take out some laser guns they've acquired to try shooting him down. Keep firing! Once our computer sites lock in on him, these babies will practically blow him away themselves! Where the heck do dime store thugs like them get sophisticated hardware like that?
With the replay button and now the Zorg invention, it's even easier.
Spidey manages to defeat the well-armed robbers, webbing them up. There we go, all neat and tidy, and I managed to keep the whole thing in range of my trusty camera. I should have some great shots of this. Maybe if my favorite newspaper publisher, Jolly J. Jonah Jameson, is in a good mood, he'll pay me half what they're worth. Spidey, a lot of us are still conscious and can hear every word you're saying. The cops soon arrive, having been tipped off anonymously to the robbery, but Spidey swings off before they can question him. However, we soon learn who it was who made the tip. Dr. Doom. A simple telephone call to the local precinct house brought the police to our doorstep. Their arrival frightened away Spider-Man. They will remove the would-be burglars. I am certain that we can count on New York's finest to accomplish that in their usual oblivious fashion. Then this ludicrous incident will be ended, without anyone having stumbled upon some clue to what lies beneath the innocent-looking construction site. Doom shall heed no visitors into his man cave. Doom worries that Spidey, having sensed something odd about the construction site with his spider sense, is onto him, so he orders more security be readied. And he even stands in front of a big display of television monitors. That such an absurd incident might jeopardize the mightiest work ever undertaken by man is unthinkable! Doom's remake of the architect scenes from Matrix Reloaded will not be stopped! Doom says that there are complexes like this one spread out in every major city on Earth, their purpose being nothing less than world domination. For truly, the life's work, the masterpiece of Doom is Project Omega! Doom's marketing team has outdone themselves this time! One of Doom's servants asks what he can do for him. Go and double-check my personal tapes. Make certain that my every utterance is being recorded as usual. And have a transcript of this evening's tapes brought to my throne room. Let's see here. Doom Toilet Thoughts number 237. Could trendy refrigerator magnets be the next big fad? And see to it that I am not disturbed. Doom would be alone for a while. Tonight, Doom will eat ice cream and catch up on the latest season of RuPaul's Drag Race. Once he's alone, Doom continues to pontificate to himself. Alone! But no, the demons that torment me are with me, as always! On the right hand of Doom stands hatred, and on the left, bitterness! On my right leg, depression! On my left, chafing discomfort due to buying the wrong size of underwear. Doom takes off his mask for a moment and recalls the incident that led him to putting his armor on and beginning his path to world domination. The paths are less clear now for a man whose chief pleasure is shattering mirrors. Admittedly, I'd pay a small fortune in new mirrors with this hobby, but still... Perhaps when the world is mine, I shall have all mirrors destroyed! Not because he hates his own face, mind you, just because he thinks it'd be funny watching everyone who can't properly comb their hair anymore. Returning to work, we learn that Doom has used his machinations to lure the Incredible Hulk to the outskirts of Metropolis. Yep, these crossovers are still operating under that whole, oh, they're totally a shared universe the whole time thing. It made less sense to do that as time went on, especially when you consider how many big crisis-level events would be completely different if the other stable of characters were around to help. Anyway, we cut to Peter the next morning as he wakes up late for his college classes. He tries to ask out a girl named Cindy, who's a little reluctant, but eventually agrees. Okay, you're on. You can take me to the Elvis Costello concert tonight. Huh, that's funny. I would have thought the character's name would be Veronica then. That's the only Elvis Costello song I know. But of course, Peter's light on cash right now, so he can't do that, and she's all snooty. Tell you what, Peter, call me next time Mommy gives you your allowance, okay? Okay, but first let him know when your mommy gives you a less jerky personality. Remembering that he still owes money to the hospital for the last time his aunt was there, because the fact that Aunt May has still never keeled over of natural causes frankly just proves she's friggin' immortal. He heads to the Daily Bugle to see if he can get some cash for his pictures of Spidey. However, Jonah thinks they're garbage, that Spider-Man is old news, and if he wants any cash, he'll get photos of the Hulk and Superman, since there's word that the Hulk is headed for Metropolis. For instance, the wire services are saying that the Hulk's been sighted heading towards Metropolis, where that other self-styled do-gooder what's-his-name hangs out. I have no idea who he is and think he's just saying he's a do-gooder. That's why I have his poster up in my office. Speaking of other news outlets, this was still during the time when the Daily Planet had been bought out by Galaxy Communications, so Clark Kent is sent out in their helicopter to cover the Hulk's arrival. And indeed, they see a crap ton of devastation and destruction in his wake. However, they can't seem to find him, and Clark realizes that considering even he is having trouble locating him, then something must be guiding the Hulk. Otherwise, well, the Hulk is not smart enough to keep himself hidden to that degree. I mean, recall that in World War Hulk, his first action upon arriving back on Earth was to make a huge-ass hologram of himself and tell the entire world, "Give me these people or I break the planet." The Hulk doesn't do subtle. Returning to the Galaxy Communications building, Lois and Clark are rushed into a meeting with the bigwigs and a few other reporters, including Steve Lombard, Practical Joker, whom for some reason they keep bringing back because some douchebag bully playing childish pranks is funny, I guess. In fact, here he tries to do a squirting flower trick on Clark, who quickly uses his heat vision to redirect the spray right into Steve's own face. Hilarity ensues. Thank God we spent time on this rare crossover to do that comedy gold. What's even better is that he's a sports writer, so he's not even supposed to be in this meeting. After Clark's boss, Morgan Edge, tells Clark that he's going to be staying behind to be the news anchor instead of out there covering the story, Clark uses his super ventriloquism to make it seem like someone is shouting that the Hulk is just outside the building. He even stomps his foot down with enough force to make the building shake, although it seems like anything that powerful should put his foot through the floor. Edge orders the building evacuated, and Clark slips off to go deal with the Hulk, who he sees is actually in Midtown. Unseen, he races toward a familiar storeroom. The room is cluttered and dingy, but it has served him well countless times. Just and honorable men would enshrine this room if they but knew that from its musty fastness, a living legend is reborn. Next up on our tour is the janitor's closet of Superman! Anyway, the Hulk is rampaging and people are fleeing. The shriek of twisting metal and the roar of splitting concrete behind them leave no doubt that the danger is real. Yet they cannot believe, they do not accept that it is a raging green behemoth threatening their lives. I mean, if it was a giant robot like in the previous crossover, that they could believe. Deep inside, they are angry over the dentist appointments and business lunches they will miss. Oh sure, massive infrastructure damage and people could be hurt or killed, but I had a lunch date at Dorsia! Superman shows up and tells the Hulk to calm down, but he just screams about more noise bothering him. The two fight, and it won't be the last time they do so, knocking each other into buildings as Peter Parker arrives by bus. He changes into Spider-Man to try to get in closer and get some pictures, right around when Superman gets punched so hard he's sent miles away. Spidey gets ready to take him on his own, but Supes returns, girding himself down so the Hulk's punches are barely able to do anything to him. As the Hulk just gets angrier, and therefore stronger, Supes starts listening in and realizes that there's some kind of tiny robot attached to the Hulk's ear, emitting an ultrasonic screech that's causing the rampage. After he destroys it, the Hulk finally calms down. Spidey backs off, feeling completely redundant because of how easily Superman seemed to deal with him. The police ask Superman what they should do with the Hulk as he reverts back to Bruce Banner. Dr. Banner isn't a criminal officer, and neither is the Hulk. I found evidence that someone was controlling him. I mean, it's not like the Hulk would raise an entire city just so he could get some people that he wanted or anything. Spidey, having changed back to Peter Parker, is shocked by how well Superman is handling things. Geez, the police are cooperating with Supes, and the crowd is looking at him as if he were Gandhi. What have I been doing wrong? Well, for starters, maybe you could have stuck around to talk to the cops after stopping those robbers instead of fleeing the scene. We soon discover what the purpose was for the Hulk's attack, as out of the rubble emerges the Parasite, who had been held underground by Superman while a more permanent jail cell was being made to contain him. Doom had apparently contacted him to let him know this escape was coming. So precise were Doom's calculations that he was able to tell me exactly where in my cell it was safe to stand at 0 hour. I am Doom! I know exactly where the Hulk will punch things! That's not silly at all! Seems like Doom could have come up with, like, 1,000 other ways of doing this that didn't involve the Hulk, but whatever. Exhausted from climbing out of his cell, the parasite is able to remotely leech energy away from Peter Parker because of his enhanced strength. He drains just enough to get away, but that allows Peter to nearly collapse into the arms of Jimmy Olsen, who knows Pete by reputation, and the two go out for coffee and a tour of Metropolis. Soon, he even brings Peter to the Daily Planet, where he shows off the photos of the fight between Hulk and Superman to Perry White, who offers $500 for them. That's 3 times what JJJ would have paid. So why do I feel so guilty, like I'm a traitor? Because Jonah's had you in the equivalent of an abusive relationship where he's convinced you that he's doing you a favor when really he's just kind of a dick? Jimmy has quite a time playing up how great Metropolis is compared to New York, even pointing out that he could transfer his college credits to the local college and work part-time for the Daily Planet, and well, honestly, it'd probably be the best thing that ever happened to Pete. Clark, in the meantime, takes a leave of absence over the objections of Morgan Edge so that he can more freely investigate the Hulk's attack. He knows it was a cover for the parasite's escape. Only 2 men alive could have engineered something like that, and I happen to know that one of them, Lex Luthor, is safely locked away. Besides, this sort of thing isn't his style. Not a single cake was stolen! That would have been terrible! For some reason, Soups thinks that Dr. Doom is the only other person with the resources and will to do this. I mean, he's right, but nobody else would have thought of this elaborate an escape attempt. In any event, he heads to the Latverian embassy to confront Doom, making note of the fact that the place is walled with lead to block his X-ray vision, and the decor hides advanced technology, like a suit of armor that's actually a robot. He confronts Doom, who makes no effort to hide that he was responsible, nor his plans to take over the world. Surely you understand, for philosophically, we are much alike. Doom also feels that Edna Mode is wrong about capes, and that they are a grand addition to our fashion. Doom says it's because they both dictate the fate of mankind, Doom choosing action to take over the world in the hope of improving it, while Superman refuses to do that, but that same inaction can potentially condemn people. Soups justifies his decision, since that would make him nothing more than a dictator, but the philosophical discussion is tabled as Doom releases some kryptonite at him. They keep calling it specifically as a kryptonite substance, yet the artwork makes it look like beams fired on him. Doom admits that attacking him like this is a bit ungentlemanly, but Superman is a risk to his plans and he needs to take him out, so an opportunity knocks and all. However, Soups retains enough strength to grab part of the lead floor and wraps himself up in it, protecting himself from the kryptonite. Now to spin at super speed, until the heat from the air friction melts the lead into a thin, flexible covering.
This makes no sense, and yet it's working.
And thus, in some kind of lead armor, he grabs the kryptonite out of the wall and tosses it out of the building. And into the friggin' sun. God bless you, pre-crisis Superman, and your ludicrous abilities. You know, stuff like this is why people think that Superman is too powerful. After shattering his leaden armor just by flexing his muscles, Soups asks Doom why he doesn't just do the same to his armor. Bah! I am standing on Latverian soil! Here, I am the law, alien! Are you not sworn to uphold the laws of men? Yeah, but I'm pretty sure diplomatic immunity doesn't really apply when you literally try to murder him like that. Unfortunately, Soups buys that argument and leaves. You know I'm not going to let your plans for world conquest succeed. Try something, and there'll be no place you'll be safe from me. Just make sure you don't try to do it on Latverian soil, though. Otherwise, I'll just stand there and grumble at you some more. The parasite comes out, telling Doom he should have been allowed to go at him, but Doom says that he'd likely just be defeated as usual. He has a plan and insists that the parasite be patient. Later, Clark Kent shows up at the Daily Bugle wanting to do some freelance work for them. Jonah butters him up a bit, knowing Kent's reputation, and thinks he can trade out Peter Parker for him in light of Parker selling photos to the Daily Planet. Clark thinks to himself that the real reason he's doing this is because he thinks Doom might try to strike at Superman through Lois Lane or Jimmy Olsen, or himself as Clark Kent, so he'll make a big splash and some attention for himself in New York to try to draw them out. It's a bit weak reasoning, I admit, but not the worst. And so Soups starts working in New York, stopping planes from crashing, stopping robbers, annoying Jameson by not being in his office when he demands his attention, and apparently New York is in constant danger of everything falling apart because not only are there multiple planes close to crashing, but also a train that almost hits a bus stopped on some tracks. Jameson is further annoyed by the fact that Superman is actually clearly acting like a hero, and thus the Bugle needs to take an editorial stance on him. The Bugle in the past has always been against superheroes of any kind, but, well, it's Superman. Tomorrow's edition will carry my editorial on Superman. Run the headline: New York welcomes a real hero, but I miss the old days. Being positive? Not critiquing every single thing that people do? I got into this business to hate people, Robbie! Soups' investigation turns up nothing other than revealing that the robbers from the beginning likely got their laser weapons from Doom. You know, the ones that were used in almost revealing his base. The robbers who he called the police on. Weird. He pays a visit to Latveria, trying to see if he can find anything, but there's no luck. The only thing that does happen is that some of Doom's minions fire some kind of particle beam at him that Soups doesn't feel at all, something that's part of his larger plan. After Soups takes a look at the confiscated weapons, we cut to Doom and the Parasite. Parasite is getting impatient, wanting to do something to advance their plans for Superman, but Doom just says to be patient, revealing that part of his plan involves the Hulk, whom he's captured and placed in a stasis tube. When Doom won't tell him anymore, the Parasite tries to leech off of him, but Doom, of course, insulated his armor from that. Now, you will await my pleasure in your room, will you not? Doom has special lingerie prepared for this occasion. At the Daily Planet, Peter tries asking Lana Lang out on a date, but she's not interested. Steve Lombard drops by to tape a sign to his back saying, "I struck out with Lana Lang," so Peter proceeds to shoot webbing on Lombard's chair so he's stuck to it. Superman gets to save countless people and confront the main villain of the story. Spider-Man gets to engage in a prank war with a douchebag. Woo! Crossover! Spidey gets even more crappy luck in the story when he tries to help some cops confronting an armed robber on a rooftop, but one of the officers falls off, barely hanging onto the ledge. And the other officers think Spidey pushed him, so they open fire on him. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, absolute failure, Spider-Man. Realizing he's been distracted by something for a while, he thinks it's because his spider sense went crazy at the construction site with the robbers even after they were taken down. When it happens to him again at another construction site, he investigates and finds a steel plate covering up an entranceway into an underground base. Well, what do you know? A super duper deluxe giant underground who's-he what's-this?
Is that a technical term?
Maybe this is where they're filming the next Star Wars movie. Man, I would love it if Doom's real plan was to take over the franchise before Return of the Jedi got made.
If only you knew the power of the Doom side!
Wonder if I'll run into lukewarm water or C3D2. What's sad is, considering the ever-expanding list of new characters and goofy names in Star Wars, it's entirely likely that those two actually exist. The way my spider senses are buzzing now, Darth Vader seems like a better bet. So you can't say Luke or the droids as real names, but Darth Vader is okay? Or maybe Bob Iger read this comic back in the 80s and was all like, "Someday I will own both Marvel and Star Wars and make sure that this injustice is corrected." Spidey comes across a bunch of unconscious goons, leading him to a firefight where some very conscious goons are shooting at Wonder Woman. I'd help her, but it doesn't look like she needs it. So far, Wonder Woman has done more to be involved in the plot than friggin' Spider-Man has, and her name isn't even in the title, and the book is 2/3 done with before she shows up. Doom is pissed that his guards are having such a hard time subduing Wundy, the Parasite laughing about how his plan is coming undone, but Spidey's arrival gives him an idea. Doom gets on a loudspeaker and says Spidey should now attack her, claiming that he's working for him. Wundy, being an idiot, takes that at its word and attacks Spidey first, not helped by articles she's read about Spidey being a bad guy. She tries to use the lasso of truth to get info out of him, but he refuses to be tied up. Your words have the ring of glib treachery, Spider-Man! The spirit of truth, everybody. Spidey knocks out the lights and finally convinces her that he's not a bad guy by not attacking her. You've made your point, Spider-Man, but it's your own fault that people are immediately suspicious of you. You're, well, scary. You've got a pretty creepy routine. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman, all the world says you're super judgy. Yeah, I know, most people have a thing about spiders. By the way, do you think it's too early in our relationship to consider marriage? You're not helping the "you're super creepy" thing, Pete. Unfortunately, this distraction allows some guards to come in and shoot Wendy with some lasers while her back is turned, knocking her out and dragging her away while they try to kill Spider-Man. They take her to an underground train car that links New York to Metropolis, Spidey following along by clinging to the back of it. Once at the base, they drag Wonder Woman out, but the parasite insists that they hand her over to him. Doom asks what the hell his deal is. You desire this woman, Parasite? I was unaware that you had romantic inclinations. Of course I want her. Look at me, Doom. Look at the ravaged, disfigured flesh before you. Look at this hideous thing that I am. And then try to remember that inside, I'm still a man. I'm still a man! Huh. Well, I am going to Con Bravo next week, so... Look at me, Doom! See before you this wretched creature who longs to eat, to sleep, to love, but is denied all the simple pleasures of men since my body was transformed.
To be like the human, to laugh, feel, want. Why are these things not in the plan?
Yes, I desire her, but I cannot have her, Doom. I can only steal her awesome power and feel it surging, burning within me. Power is all that is left for me to lust for. I want it now! Well, I mean, I can still lust after other things, but, well, let me tell you, these shorts don't actually serve any real purpose anymore. Doom, understanding his situation, given his own disfigurement, decides to finally share his full plan. The construction sites around the world are hidden even from Superman's powers, but their true purpose is ingenious. When they're all activated, they're going to emit a special radiation that will transform all fossil fuels throughout the planet into sand. Coal, gasoline, kerosene, and oil will be rendered useless in a single second. An adjustment can somehow annihilate atomic fuel as well, thus most modern forms of energy, dead. He can apparently do the same to chemical reactions in most weapons. And then, Doom will step in with a fusion reactor, demanding that he be made absolute monarch of Earth if people want to have any kind of electricity or power ever again. It's a good plan, actually. A bit silly for the science behind it, but hey, forcing everyone to rely upon you means instant conquest of Earth and eliminating the most powerful weapons that could stop him. The Parasite will act as his enforcer, with Doom using a machine that will transfer the power of the Hulk, Wonder Woman, and Superman into him safely and permanently. My god! The Parasite will become Combo Man! So, weird thing with my scans. I'm not sure if this was a printing error in the original comic, or just something odd that happened with the scans I got of it, but the first 3 panels of this page repeat at the bottom. I'm not sure what else happens in those 3 panels, but we then see Spider-Man crawling out of a hole in the New York construction site and meeting Superman. He explains the whole situation to him, and Soup says he'll handle it himself, since there's no time to call in reinforcements. Dude, you're in New York! You can't walk 5 steps without running into a superhero. Then hell, you've got 2 universes worth of characters running around. Spidey at first thinks he should stay out of it, but then realizes that his bad luck lately has just screwed with his head a bit. Geronimo! Nuts, I'm just gonna have to think up a glitzier battle cry. Ah, don't worry, Pete. You've already got one.
Go, Web, go!
Superman bursts in and begins fighting Doom's guards and the Parasite, immune to all their weapons. Doom unleashes a robot on him made of an alloy nearly as indestructible as adamantium and powered by his fusion reactor. See how its blinding brilliance penetrates this viewport, though it is made of black quartz, 20 feet thick. This is the fire that burns in the stars, the primary power of the universe, a force to be feared even by the legendary Superman. Only Doom could harness such power! Only Doom would dare! For I am Doom, overlord of this world and master of the stick shift! The Parasite tries to go for Soups to absorb his power while the robot distracts him, but Spidey swings in to knock him away. Unfortunately, like before, he starts draining Spider-Man instead. He gains Spider-Man's powers, including his spider sense that allows him to anticipate any attack. Switching over to the robot, Spidey manages to blind it and allows Superman to punch it into a million pieces. However, Doom is still prepared, unleashing kryptonite again, this time fused into the fabric of his costume thanks to that particle ray from before. It was only activated once Doom did some science-y thing in the lab, and thus the two are defeated and chained up. As the parasite is fitted with a harness to absorb the powers of the three heroes, Doom thinks about how it's a trick. The sheer amount of power sent into him will overload every cell in the parasite's body and transform him into a crystalline structure that he needs for his fusion reactor. It's unstable without it. In fact, the reactor is so unstable that even now it's building towards an explosion that will atomize the planet. It's fine though, Doom is pretty sure that this is Reed Richards' fault somehow. Spidey awakens first and starts working to free Superman, sending out a thin layer of webbing onto him, and then peeling it back, taking all the kryptonite on him with it. While that goes on, the parasite, still having a lingering bit of spider sense, realizes that Doom is lying to him about the harness and attacks. He knocks him into a control panel that, according to Doom, was the master control system for the reactor. And the pressure from the system is now building up so that the planet is going to explode soon. So that's a bit of a whoopsie. Still, with Spider-Man and Superman freed, they defeat the parasite while Doom runs off, realizing the reactor is going critical. The two are able to stop it, Superman managing to physically adjust stuff in the reactor itself, while Spidey does science to stop it from exploding. They pursue Doom, but he manages to reach the Latverian embassy first. You would not dare violate international law! Keep on believing that, Doom. Keep on trusting an imaginary line to protect you from me. Even though it totally is, and I'm not going to grab you. And so our comic ends with both characters returning to their respective news offices, with Jonah in particular buttering up to Peter after Kent quit, and Peter insisting on a raise. Behold one of the few real victories Peter scores in this story. This comic is okay, but it still has some serious problems. First and foremost is that, like the first crossover, it feels like the book focuses way too much on Superman being so powerful, while Spider-Man is relegated to sidekick for the most part. I get that they were probably pushing the hard luck hero stuff for Peter versus Superman's more over-the-top displays of heroism, but honestly it comes across like Spider-Man is really ineffectual by comparison. It does get better in the end, with both heroes coming together to save the world, but even then it's only because of a quirk of circumstances that allows Doom to overpower Superman, assuming he would fly over Latveria at all and allow for the particles to hit him. And while it's fun to see the two characters in the other news settings interacting with their supporting characters, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of justification for Peter to go back to the Bugle. Sure, he screwed up in Metropolis a bit, but at least he was in a better situation than he was in New York, better paid and respected by his boss. Were we supposed to think it was because Steve Lombard was such a douchebag that Peter never wanted to go back? Okay, actually, I could totally believe that. Still, the villains are put to better use here than in the first crossover, where Doc Ock was really playing second fiddle to Lex Luthor. The Parasite has more of a reason to be involved in the events, and it feels more true to see this partnership. The action is still good, but the inclusion of Wonder Woman and the Hulk seems unnecessary, especially since, again, it plays down Spidey as a hero when both Superman and Wonder Woman make him seem almost unnecessary or more of a hindrance than a help. Next time, we have a follow-up with a more unique character, because it's time to go back to Amazing Cow Heroes.
That comic book
I made it! Here on my own sovereign territory, I cannot be touched! I am supreme! I am Doom! I rule this stoop and you can't touch me! Neener, neener, neener!